Anti-racist feminism refers to movements that fight for an end to racism and racial inequality. Anti-racists see how racism in our society manifests at individual, group, as well as bigger social structural levels, and take action and support policies aimed at ending racism. Anti-racist feminism is an intellectual and activist work which understands the necessity of connecting race, class, and gender, ability, and sexuality in order to understand the capitalist. Anti-racism is totally based on the rejection of multicultural approach which overwhelmingly focuses on the celebration of difference and culture without challenging power and injustice. Sadly, many women of color still experience barriers to full participation in feminist organizations, feminist media, and women's studies departments at colleges and universities. The article White Privilege Unpacking the Invisible Concept by Peggy is an example of anti racist feminism, since it explores the ways in which white people occupy a superior position in society, which constantly favors them more than other people of color.
Some critiques against anti racist feminism include issues that solely focus around the equality of white women. For example, the five suffragettes that fought for many women's rights, such as voting, did not consider getting the right to vote for all women, but rather for the upper and middle class white women. This shows us that barriers existed in reference to race and women's rights. Another critique against anti racist feminism is the link between the Indian Act of 1876 and meritocracy. This meant that many of the rules set in place by governments were in favor of those in a higher class. This added to women's oppression because rather than helping all women become equal, this put women into different categories, such as class, race, and age.
Anti-racist feminism can be divided into many subsections, such as black feminism, indigenous feminism, anti-colonialism, and many more. As part of the movement towards race equality, women of non-white descent began to step forward and question what their place in society was. Their fundamental point was, if white women and men of color were being granted more rights, where were their basic human rights? They started to demand more for themselves. In those days, a woman's participation in black liberation movements subjected her to constant sexism and reminders of her lack of control over her own body. Even great leaders such as Martin Luther King are guilty of chauvinistic attitudes. Black women in particular were frustrated with their lack of representation, which led to the formation of the National Black Feminist Organization in New York in 1973. In an attempt to counteract these attitudes, black feminists demanded a new set of female definitions that included recognition of themselves as a citizen, companion, and confidant. Anti-racist feminism is very similar to other feminist theories, except rather than adding new ideas to old concepts, anti-racist feminism's focus is on broadening the definition of feminism to apply to more women.
An example of a historical figure who followed the anti-racist feminist theory is Rosa Parks. Rosa was an African-American civil rights activist. She was most famously known for refusing to give up her seat on a crowded bus to a white woman. Though 9 months before that incident, Claudette Colvin had done the same on the bus. But she wasn't as publicized due to her being underage and pregnant while unmarried. Rosa fought racial segregation and became a prominent figure in the civil rights movement. But she suffered hardships like losing her job and later had to move since she was not able to receive employment. She collaborated with many other prominent figures in the civil rights movements. She also fought for reforms in housing, education, and against police brutality. In her final years of life, she co-founded a scholarship called the Rosa L. Parks Scholarship Foundation for college-bound high school seniors. She also co-founded the Rosa and Raymond Parks Institute for Self-Development, an institute that runs the Pathways to Freedom bus tours, which introduce young people to civil rights and underground railroad sites throughout the country.